Hello and welcome to the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast, a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network. I hope you're well and staying as sane as you feel you need to be. I'm recording this on Wednesday, the 30th of July. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm not a rockstar, but I am a CMO. And on this podcast, I chat with a band of marketing chums who share their marketing street knowledge, which I hope will bring out the rockstar marketer in you. However, this week, my chum Jeff Clark is still away on his long summer break to the Nordics, so I'm going to go solo and take this opportunity to share with you something I've been asked to do and something we've been discussing on this show, create a CMO's 90-day plan and talk you through my process. But first, I still need to pay the bar tab, so I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back after this word.
We'll be right back
After this word.
When it comes to relevant content, you may have heard Jeff and me talk about the multis on this show. Multi-channel, multi-device, multi-persona, and multi-language. On that last one, let me ask, how confident are you that your content actually connects in every market? You're not sure? Well, it might be time to check out Phrase. In our experience, this stuff used to be hard, but Phrase makes it simple with its industry-leading AI localization platform that helps you deliver content in multiple languages without losing your tone, your message, or your mind. It automates the manual work, slashes review time, and gives you real data on what's working and where. Brands like Uber and Zendesk trust Phrase to scale their content across the globe and get it right every time. If you're serious about reaching more people and driving better results internationally, head over to phrase.com/MPN and take a look. That's phrase.com/MPN.
Are you tired of juggling multiple software tools to manage your agency? Say hello to Deltek Workbook, the ultimate solution for marketing and communication agencies. With Workbook, you can streamline your projects, resources, and finances all in one place. Imagine real-time dashboards and reports giving you full visibility into your projects, people, and financials. Plan your team's capacity weeks in advance to avoid bottlenecks while staying on budget to maximize project margins. Plus, Workbook works perfectly for both agencies and in-house marketing teams looking to boost efficiency and profitability. And here's the best part. At PCI, we're a certified Deltek partner and reseller offering expert implementation, integrations, and ongoing support to ensure your success. Want to see how Deltek Workbook can transform your operations? For a free consultation, visit pci.us/podcast today. That's pci.us/podcast.
Recently, Jeff and I did a series of shows discussing the first 90 days for a new CMO using our 5 effing marketing fundamentals framework. And last week, I was asked to do this for real. Well, to be more accurate, I was asked to create a 100-day plan. And I thought it might be useful to share this experience with you guys as our ideas hit the real world. And I'm emboldened by last week's guest and friend of the show, Simon Daniels, who encouraged me to do this. So let's start off with the first problem with this. It's incredibly hard to do this with any fidelity in an interview process, as you need a considerable amount of discovery to do this well. And secondly, it's quite a big ask and a lot of effort. And there's always a suspicion in your mind that you're doing free work, that they will take your plan and go hire somewhere else. So if you're going for a senior marketing role and you're asked a big chunk of work like this, be cautious and make sure the opportunity is well qualified and you're in with a solid shout of getting the job. If you've had this experience, I'd be really interested in hearing what you think and what happened to you. So please reach out via the website, rockstarcmo.com. I suspect that most senior leaders who ask for this are not looking for a plan. Even before ChatGPT, a quick Google could give you one of these. But now, of course, ChatGPT can do the whole thing. They're looking for how you approach the human side of the challenge. If you understand or have a best practice, the differentiated ideas that you have. And it's also a good way of doing a little project together, testing the chemistry and seeing how you present yourself. So I think we don't need to sweat too much about the details of what's in your plan. You just need to show how you plan and how you think and how you work. All that aside, it's an interesting challenge that as I spend my free time doing this podcast and various other writing projects, you can probably imagine I quite enjoy doing this kind of thing. So I'm all in. So as we've preached on the show, I used our marketing fundamentals framework, which you can download from our website, and it covers 5 areas of marketing. The master plan, that's quite self-explanatory. So this is building out our plan for what we're going to do over the next 12 to 18 months. The knowledge, which is the category, intel, ICPs, personas, buying group, all of that stuff. The story, obviously the messaging and the content marketing program. The machine, which covers marketing operations, people, tech, and process. And finally, their campaign, which is when the rubber hits the road. And we put this all together in brand awareness and demand generation campaigns. Across the top, of course, if you've listened to me at all bang on about this stuff, is I sprinkle my mantra that the goal of marketing is to create art, awareness, revenue, and trust. So that sits across all of this. Those are the goals. However, in this particular opportunity, I had very limited discovery. I only had 2 conversations with the company executives before I was asked to create this plan. So I started my plan with a list of assumptions. Some derived from the conversations I'd had, some from my research, and some from the experience of seeing this sort of company do this sort of thing that they want to do before. And of course, as a self-deprecating Englishman, I added some caveats to warn people, this is just kind of a plan. It's not a framework. It's not something we're going to stick to, and it's going to be subject to change. It's depending what we discover in those first 30 days. The next thing I did is I focused on goals, objectives, and outcomes, which of course, every executive wants to hear. Again, I used my ART framework, and I was thinking this would anchor the plan and keep it focused. As a temptation, especially as you're kind of doing a little bit of marketing show off, is to chuck everything that you know about marketing into the plan, and that would bog it down and make it impossible to present. So my deck so far has some opening assumptions based on those conversations I've had in my research. And also those things can be discussed when the plan is presented, right? So you've got some talking points there, and they enable you to be nimble in the rest of the presentation. So as those conversations about assumptions happen when you're presenting the plan, you can then kind of try and adapt. And I'll talk about this in a bit, what your plan looks like after the first 30 days. And as a set of objectives that have come from these assumptions, again, as I say, they're based on my ART model. So I've listed these. So you can imagine a slide where I'm listing these objectives under awareness, revenue, and trust. And if you're a fan of the OKR model, objective and key results, as we are here, the challenge at this point is while you can share an objective, that they want to, for example, raise brand awareness of their new brand, the key result will be a bit generic. Because you're not quite sure where they are in that. You need to do a bit of a deeper discovery to understand what the key result would be. Plus, of course, you want your OKRs to roll up to whatever the company goals are. And you may not know those in enough detail yet. So you need to have that sort of wiggle room in the presentation as you talk about that. I then created 5 work streams reflecting the 5 fundamentals I just discussed. And I admit, I softened the language a little from our Rockstar CMO headings that we use here. But as an aside, on reflection, having done that, I'm not sure if that was a good idea, as I suspect it makes the plan look less distinct and more generic. But anyway, let's press on. So basically what I'm encouraging there is you need to make sure your voice, your ideas are in the structure of this plan. Otherwise, it'll end up looking very generic. So I've split the deck now into 5 work streams, and I split those work streams into 3 phases. The first 30 days, the 30 to 60 days, and then 90 days to business as usual, right? So that would include the 100-day plan that they asked for. I then created a slide for each work stream to describe the objectives for each phase. So if you imagine you've got your overall goals and objectives at the beginning, and then what you're going to achieve against those in your first 30 days, your first 60 days, and the final 90 days. So what do those objectives look like for each of those phases? I then fleshed out each phase. So as you can imagine, the first 30 days in each work stream is about discovery and not breaking anything and trying to do more of the good things and turn off some of the bad things, right? And so you're quickly identifying what's currently working and what's not, and any quick wins or priorities that you can find there. And obviously, it's going to be essential that this doesn't look like some dry, boring plan produced by, some big consulting house, but actually has some tangible, practical, pragmatic wins in it and things you're going to achieve within the 30 days, which isn't just listen to the executives and reading and doing your research. So as an example of what I put into each of those work streams in the first 30-day process is in the master plan work stream, I talked about understanding the company goals, objectives, building a master plan, and creating a detailed plan for the next 30 to 90 days, right? So in those first 30 days, you know what you're going to do in your first 30 days. You have a broad, high-level idea of what you're going to do from 30 days to 60 days. But in this part of the fate, you're now working out exactly what needs to get done after the first 30 days. In the knowledge work stream, this is about understanding what's already in place. So in terms of what persona work have they already done? Do they understand their ICP, the buyer group? What market intelligence have they got to hand? Do they have a good analyst relations? Do they have a win-loss program or any other programs they have about customer sat or any of that kind of good stuff? In the machine work stream, this is about understanding the current tech stack, the data available, the reporting capabilities, what reports they already produce, and the capabilities of the team. So the people, process, and skills. In the story work stream, basically in the first 30 days, this is about kicking off a content audit and reviewing that about what we know about the audience and the campaign and the buyer and all that kind of stuff. Now that's going to be subject to change, right? So, but you need to start kicking off that content audit fairly early, understand what you've got, but obviously how you then look at that content about whether you've got content for each of the buyers' journeys and each of the personas. There may be some work that needs to wait for if you don't have that available, in this new gig, and they don't know who their personas are, or they don't have their ICP defined, etc., etc. And the campaign work stream is very similar to that, in that it's an audit of the current campaigns, looking at what's working, what isn't, what channels are working, what channels aren't working, and whether there's actually a coherent campaign strategy in place in the company. And you've heard us talk about campaigns on this podcast a lot. We tend to talk about campaigns as being the thing you want somebody to know about your company, or the things you want the world to know about your company, and what you want to do with that, what you want them to do, rather than it being an email campaign or a social media campaign or something like that. So that's so our deck now has some assumptions. It has the goals and objectives, has an overview of the work streams with the objectives for each of the work stream, and a slide for each work stream with bullet points of what is planned for the first 30 days. Obviously, in real life, 30 days will fly by, and there's a lot in here. For example, a content audit that I've just discussed, we'll just be kicking that off, and it'll probably extend in beyond 30 days if you're working for a large organization that has a lot of content. And I admit, at this point, you can create the first 30-day plan fairly with some fair fidelity, but looking beyond 30 days, it starts getting tricky with so little discovery, and particularly so little discovery in my experience of what I've just gone through. And of course, the potential for what is uncovered in the first 30 days will change whatever I drop into the plan at this point. So as we move forward, which sort of underlines the folly of asking for a 100-day plan in an interview process, because it's based on so little information. And I'm reminded of the Mike Tyson quote that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I think in the first 30 days, you need to be prepared for being punched in the face. So we need to demonstrate some agility here, but we also have to have a plan. I mean, that's what we've been asked to show. So we move on to creating a slide for each work stream for the 30 to 60 days. The key point is that we need some quick wins or early outcomes specific to this opportunity, which if you are creating a plan as part of an interview process, again, can only come from the chats you've had so far and the assumptions. So it's a tricky business, but you need to actually create some quick wins and early outcomes. You can't be generic at this point, because you need to show the benefit you're going to bring if they hire you, right? And so and the challenge is, with so little discovery, it's really easy to appear generic. And as I was mentioning earlier, they can get generic anywhere. What can they get specifically from you that will differentiate you from the other candidates and from just typing into ChatGPT? So you've identified some quick wins, some of which might be stopping staff from redeploying the budget, Some of it might be that you can see something in the market that's happening that you think they need to respond to, et cetera, et cetera. And then the rest of the 30 to 60 days plan is about filling the gaps of what you've discovered is missing in that first 30 days. And depending on the role and the company objectives, there might be some change management required as well, which is certainly true of the role that I'm working on at the moment. But I'm not going to share the details of this role. So that's what gets challenging with this podcast episode, is that I can share with you quite a lot of detail of what you do in the first 30 days because you'd probably do it yourself. But beyond that, it gets very specific about this particular role. But as an example of change management, in a previous CMO role, my 30, 60, 90-day planning had to include merging marketing teams across a portfolio of companies to become one team, which requires the involvement of HR, work councils here in Europe, and changes in processes. And I would describe this as change management beyond normal marketing planning, right? Beyond what you would normally do in your business as usual. So we need to factor in some sort of change management if there is going to be some kind of structural change to the marketing team on the basis of you being hired. So now we've got a deck that consists of assumptions. We've got 5 work streams. We've split that into 3 phases. We've got objectives for each phase and a slide on each work stream and phase, giving a high-level overview of what happens in that phase. And we've just completed the 30 to 60 days. Now, clearly, in an interview process, and I'm going to repeat myself here, defining what you'll do on day 60 is again going to lack some fidelity based on the limited exposure and discovery you'll already have had and you'll get. But here we need to clearly have moved from discovery and planning to execution. Again, the risk is going to be to appear generic here, but but here you need to demonstrate that you understand marketing best practice and that you have a program and you have a plan, which is why I'm sort of recommending these 5 work streams. You cut up the work streams, you understand what's going to happen in each of those work streams. You come across as somebody who has a plan, right? It's not just like, well, then we'll do stuff at day 60. You know exactly what you're going to do in each of those work streams. And you can include a lot of best practice that can be included in here. And it's funny, in the chat that I was having with this opportunity, they're the ones who actually said, look, we can create a generic plan with ChatGPT. What they were looking for is differentiation. So the tricky task is to create specific activities for this gig and demonstrate what you would do differently. Again, coming from the assumptions and research in the company and category you've already done. So this bit you're going to need to be a bit agile on. And because also when you present this plan, and this is what actually happened to me this week, and so hopefully you'd have the same experience, there's a fair amount of discussion about the assumptions that you've put in at the front and the first 30 days, during which the hiring team will probably reveal a bit more about their current state, goals, objectives, and resources you'll have available. So a lot of that first 30 days may even change, let alone 30 to 60 days of what you need to do, because they'll say, we had a team come in and they figured out our personas and our ICP. So now you're not defining those. You're just going to review what's there and maybe build on that. So that can then shorten what happens in that work stream. Also, and I found this, as you become more familiar with the team through discussing this plan, they may also reveal some of the internal challenges, some of the executives that need to be onboarded on this plan, or some of the things that were not shared in the job description that you're going to need to be wary of, or you're going to need to work around, or something like that. So again, as I was saying earlier, you really need to be agile at this stage, particularly at the latter part of this presentation and this plan. And you need to be prepared for this and prepared for how you're going to present this agility. And you need to be ready to skip whole points that you've made in your slides, maybe skip whole slides, and be ready with the jazz hands if you haven't quite got the slide of what you're looking for there. So you need to be really ready with the ability to skip around and be agile when it comes to these later phases of the plan, and demonstrate that you can actually respond to what the challenge is that they've now presented you with, because you didn't know about that challenge when you wrote the plan, but you're now aware of it. And so you need to think on your feet a little bit and figure out where that is. And I think that maybe in the preparation of the plan is to have some of those scenarios thought out, so that then you can flip and change where you were. So, for example, when I presented the plan for this opportunity that I was discussing here, one in the C-suite revealed something that significantly changed discovery that was needed, how much stuff they already had. So then I had to quickly pivot to execution. So that's my rundown of creating a 30, 60, 90-day plan for an opportunity that I'm actually in, which I thought was I'm almost building this live in real life, right? I don't know how this is going to go. I'm still in the process, to be honest with you. And we'll see how it goes. But just to summarize there, the 30, 60, 90-day plan that I've built, so it has at the beginning all the assumptions that I've made. It has some caveats about some of the things that might change based on what we learn in those first 30 days. It's split into 5 work streams, as I discussed, and those are split into 3 phases for each of those time buckets: 30 days, 30 to 60 days, and then 90 days. So 30 to 60 days, and then 60 to 90 days and onwards, right? And as the plan goes further forward, it gets slightly generic, but at this point, we need to be agile and be able to drop things in as we learn more about the opportunity, how good we were with our assumptions, and what might happen in the first 30 days. So that's my process. I hope you found that useful. And of course, if you want to dive into the detail of our 5 effing B2B marketing fundamentals, you can find that on our website. Plus, Jeff and I went into a bit more depth on the first 90 days in each of these fundamentals if you look back on our previous episode. So that's a wrap on this special solo episode of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast. I've been your host, Ian Truscott. I am a CMO, but not a rockstar, and also managing partner at Velocity B. And you can find me on LinkedIn, or all my links are in the show notes on rockstarcmo.com, or just search Rockstar CMO or Velocity B, and I'm sure you'll find me. I'd love to hear from you. But most of all, thanks for putting a dime into your podcasting jukebox and jiving along. I'm glad you're here. Coming up for us here on Rockstar CMO, we have Robert back in the bar on Saturday, and I chat with Kathy in a monthly visit to the studio on Wednesday. So I hope you join us for some of that here on Rockstar CMO FM.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Henneke Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Henneke, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennekewatkins-porter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.